What is going on, guys? Welcome to Greggles TV. In this video, we're going to talk about Samsung's $800 foldable phone that is due to come out in 2024 and what it potentially could look like and have inside as specs. And I want to talk about this because I think you still might want it after we talk about what it's going to be having and missing. So let's get to it. So to get to an $800 foldable phone that looks something like what we have with the Galaxy Z Fold 3, Z Fold 4, and that entire line, you've got to minus out some things, change some things, and make things a little less, because you're talking about, this phone basically goes for $1,700, $1,800, and to take $1,000 off, you got to do some serious cutting. And as you know, a display is the major part of a foldable phone because you get this giant display, and then you can also close it and have a smaller display, smaller phone. And I think that's where we're gonna see some major cuts. So one of them wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it'll happen, but it wouldn't surprise me. And that would be if they completely remove this display, and maybe it's just something small like the Galaxy Z Flip line, where it just kind of shows you a little bit of information, not a lot, but little. You can get your notifications, you can see who's calling, you can get stuff like that, but you can't really interact with it all that much. And then when you open it up, you would have that fold experience. That would be a major way that they could cut back. And it wouldn't surprise me if they completely moved that front display, but it kind of would at the same time. Some other areas that I think they'll do is cut down on the refresh rate. Currently we're at 120 hertz refresh rate on the Galaxy Z Fold line. I can see them going down to 90, maybe even 60 on all the displays. Have it be one or two displays that they have, but ultimately I would say that this main display, I could see them going down to 60, but I would really think they'll probably stay at 90 hertz on the refresh rate for a foldable phone that would come out in 2024. Another area of the display I can see them decreasing is on the brightness. Bring that brightness down. When you don't have as bright a display, you get better battery life, and you can probably make the phone be a little less expensive as well, due to the fact that it doesn't have to push out as much light. It also wouldn't surprise me if they go with a lower resolution. Maybe they do 1080p on both displays. Now, 1080p on this display probably wouldn't look that bad. I mean, you're basically at about 2K per se on here, but if they just go with a straight 1080, it probably would be fine and still look pretty good. And at that point, hey, if it looks good, then fine. What about an older design? That wouldn't shock me at all. You're talking about basically 2 years from now, an $800 folding phone. And when I say older design, I think they'll use what the Galaxy Z Fold 2 looks like, meaning that if they keep the front display, you'd have a display that looks exactly like this with the camera on top, and then also a big camera in the top right phone. This is a Z Fold 3, so you don't see that, but I can see them doing that, probably using maybe just the Galaxy Z Fold 2 body overall. So they don't have to recreate the wheel. They can use old parts if they still have them, and go from there. And maybe they won't make the display smaller and do some of the things I've said, but it just makes sense to, if they're gonna cut $1,000 out, those are some ways to do it. Keep an older design, or maybe even use some of those old parts. It also wouldn't shock me if they use the cameras from the Z Fold 2, and by then you're looking at probably lower resolution than what they offer 2 years from now. Cameras won't be as good, and overall you'll get less of a good experience with taking photos, but you still have that foldable usage of a phone, and you can say, hey, I'm cutting back on some areas, but I still can take some decent photos. I do think they'll keep the fingerprint on the side here, which I would be perfectly happy with. I also think with the speakers, I don't think the speakers will be nearly as good as they are on a Z Fold 2 or 3 or whatever the Force ends up sounding like. So I think they'll cut back on the speakers, maybe have a mono speaker, or they'll probably have stereo speakers, but I also don't think they'll be as loud or as great sounding. I also don't think you'll see any dust or water resistance with the phone, which kind of makes sense when you're cutting back on things. That's usually something that's cut out from mid-tier and low-tier phones. Now, performance, I still think it'll perform really well, but I think you'll end up getting a mid-range processor, probably not one of their best processors, or if it is a newer processor, it'll probably be like last year's version of the processor, whatever that ends up being in 2 years from now. And then adding on to that, you'll probably get less RAM and less storage, but I do think they'll throw in a micro SD card in 2 years, just a guess, obviously. But I think like you'll see the bare bones amount of storage, which will probably be 128 gigs of storage. I think with the RAM, I think by then you'll still at least see 8 gigabytes of RAM, maybe 12, but I think they'll stick to 8 gigs of RAM with it. And then the processor, like I said, I feel like it'll be faster than this because it's talking 2 years from now, but something like a Snapdragon 870, whatever that is, 2 years from now. And there you guys go. That is my idea of what to expect with a 2024 Samsung Galaxy Z Foldable that only cost about $800. Let me know in the comments down below what you think the $800 Galaxy Z Fold will look like and have inside in the comments down below. Have a great day. We'll see you down the road. Peace.